Hi again, folks. This is your Serial Cynic, and here with another video. Sitting here in a rather breezy day here in New York City, which serves as a good backdrop for the topic that I want to talk about. The other day I was on Facebook and I happened to see this video. And it was a video from a guy from Georgia who lives in Texas at the moment. And it looks like a couple of people may have written him. He's a comedian, as far as I know. Guess he has a large Facebook following, and probably has a large following altogether. So he was doing a video basically saying that some people have written to him and telling him that he sounds uneducated because of his accent. Sounds pretty clear to me. I mean, yes, he does have a southern accent, but he does not sound unintelligent. Sounds pretty good, as a matter of fact. So, using sarcasm and being a comedian, he goes on and he basically starts to lay out why he does not want to apologize for being southern, why he does not want to apologize for the way that he speaks, and why he doesn't want to apologize for being, I guess what you would say, is a southern gentleman. Now, that video might seem unrelated to what I want to talk about, but it actually does link into something I've observed and I've noticed. Since I've known myself, or should I say, over the years, I guess I should say, there's always been this notion about a southern gentleman, or how southern people have manners compared to northerners like here in New York City. New Yorkers tend to have this reputation of being crass, boisterous, bombastic, loud, pushy, aggressive, don't have any manners, just run you over if they can. Contrasting this with the South, where people still say ma'am and good day, sir, or top of the day to you, or excuse me, use endearing words like sweetheart and bless your heart and all those type of things. Whereby New Yorkers are like, yeah, get the F out of here, man. What's the matter with you? Shut the hell up. Yeah, I got it right over here for you. Yeah, come over here. Let me give it, That's the reputation about New Yorkers. Now, me, I am not a born New Yorker, but I've lived here for quite some time. And there were moments when I went down south. I'm talking about some deep south. Anniston, Alabama. Let's see here, Kingstree, South Carolina. Other places, High Point, North Carolina. Just down in the deep south. And I remember Southerners would just look at us because we would be in the group sometimes. And sometimes we were driving our cars with New York tags. And I remember one time, somewhere down in the panhandle of Florida, they actually called the cops on us. It was a group of us in cars with New York tags. Cops pulled us over, want to know what we were doing down there. But the impression is just that New Yorkers, Northerners, New Yorkers especially, are just obnoxious. Whereby Southerners are these more laid-back people of respect, people of a name, and so forth. Which leads to this. This is why it baffles me to no end why people who claim they have manners, who claim they're respectable, who claim they believe in the Bible, a lot of them claiming that they're Christians, and that they're principled people, would have voted for a guy like Donald Trump, who comes from a city, New York, that is a complete contrast, or, the perception that the people here are a complete contrast to the people in the South. But yet a lot of people in the South voted for this guy. Obnoxious, boisterous, loud, aggressive, pushy, bullying. A lot of things that Southerners claim that they're not. And here you have a guy from the north. And not only is he from the north, he's from a northern city that is often considered the center of what Southerners don't like. Not only that, he comes from, pretenses or not, he comes from a circle in New York City that you would consider to be the elites, the bigwigs with a lot of money, who don't care about poor people. And over the years, Donald Trump has more or less presented that image, this stuck-up guy, this guy with his nose held high. And that's just the perception that's out there. But for the people that know this guy, people like me, I wouldn't say I know him personally, but people who have been living in this city for quite some time to watch him rise to fame. I'm talking about going back as far as the 80s. Is when I probably, got to know about Donald Trump. And from back then, people in this city knew that this guy was a smooth-talking con artist, that he wasn't to be trusted, that he used to brag about riches that he probably didn't have. And on top of that, this guy was given a leg up in life. His father gave him $1 million back in the 70s, which today I guess would be like about 20 million, and gave him a leg up to get started. And I'm not saying that he did not make any money, but the impression is, or the idea is, he squandered it, or how should I say it, just didn't really turn all this profit that he thought. He may have happened at some moment in time, but he lost a lot of money. Tried to con his way to the top. Try to see if he can smooth talk and rub shoulders with billionaires and millionaires in the city. And as Mike Bloomberg, a known billionaire, has mentioned, in their circles, in the rich people circles, Donald Trump was considered like a bum, like a just a smooth talking idiot who just basically tried to go around and talk his way into a good game, or talk the good game, I should say. Try to get into photo ops, try to rub shoulders with bigwigs, and try to make his way in, to the point where he was exiled out of the city. Like, people didn't want to have nothing to do with him. He was a bad businessman. People didn't want to have anything to do with him, which is what opened up the doors for him to look elsewhere to try to make his fortune or make his name. Now, I'm not going to knock him. The guy came up with a pretty good hustle in that regard. But then he had to go looking elsewhere. And this is where places like overseas, like Russia, came into play. He needed that money. The banks here in the city, I'm not sure if the United States, didn't want to lend him any money. But getting back to what I was saying, the guy is obnoxious. He's rude. He's bombastic. Things that supposedly Southern people shun or avoid, or not raised to be like. But yet, he's the hero to so many of these people in the South. Why? Because he gets up on stage and he makes it sound like he's talking for them. But I think that's not the issue. It's not anything about it, because they can look on and realize, hey, that's some rich New Yorker who doesn't care anything about us. That is not where Trump resonated with the people in the South. Maybe the Midwest, maybe. I'm not sure. But down in the South, that's not where he resonated. Where he resonated was when it came to those xenophobic and racist dog whistles. And I'm not saying everyone in the South, all white people in the South are racist, mind you. But there's quite a bit. The area has been known to be that way. It had a history steeped in racism. So when Trump came on the scene and started talking about Mexicans, of course, Mexico is close to the South, and that they're rapists, and he started to put words out there like, yeah, we need to keep those people out. It resonated with people down there. When he started to talk about nationalism, might not have called it that, but But when he started basically dog whistle it by saying we need to preserve our white culture, it resonated with them. Because we knew long before Donald Trump there were a bunch of white folks down there who figure this country is being run now or being taken over by other people. And they believe that this country is theirs for them to dominate, for them to rule over everything. And that other groups should not come in and threaten their position. So this is what resonated with these people. Now, a lot of these people don't know anything more about Donald Trump other than he was a reality star on television. But again, like I said, I've known Donald Trump since about the 80s. I'm right here basically on 42nd Street. And this was a city where he was, or where he lived, where he was born. And again, he just conned his way all the way through. And so, as a result, he made a name for himself. And he used that name and he went around. And whether or not that name had any value behind it, he just went ahead and threw it around. And basically tried to use it to continue keeping himself in the spotlight. The man is basically a horrible human being. Of course, obviously, I did not vote for him. And while people may look on and say, hey, look at the economy on the Trump and look at how things are going with Trump and so forth, I don't know if I can still look at this man and look at him as a man with integrity. He is just a nasty human being. And one thing that a lot of us in New York remember, and especially if you're a black New Yorker, or a person who's black or a minority here in this city, we remember when 5 young men were hauled off to jail and accused of, I don't remember what it was either rape or murder of some woman in Central Park up the street from here. And supposedly, they were found innocent. Not supposedly, they were found innocent. But even before their innocence was proven, and before they were even tried or a conclusion was reached about their guilt or innocence, Donald Trump took out an article in a newspaper basically calling for their heads. And even when they were proven innocent, he still would not get off of that position. His conclusion was, okay, well, basically, I guess they were innocent in this situation, but they're not really innocent guys, Trying to basically say, well, okay, they may have had some sketchy things in their pasts, I really don't know, or that they were not stellar young men, or they were not saints. Basically implying, okay, yeah, they might not have done this to this person, but they're not really good people anyway. And a lot of people just remember the tone of how he went after this and the tone of how he spoke in this. As if to say, I don't know, as if to conclude that he was just coming off as a racist. Black young men. Yeah, they'll do something like that. Yeah, they would be the ones to do something like that. And I believe it. I'm just going to run with it. And he never relented from that position. Then on top of that, he was just basically known as an asshole and a con man here in the city. And now that he's in office, you can pretty much see some of the same old tendencies. The way he talks. You can tell that he just runs his mouth and just hopes something, he just talks a lot of shit and just hope that something sticks against the fan. And that's basically what happened. It's not the first time Donald Trump tried to run for president. He just happened to come in at the right time this time around. And I feel it was just basically, I'm just going to go out there. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is that I watch a news station here in New York City. And he was a popular, or I guess you can say he was often on that news stations in the morning. And they would interview him. He would normally call in on the phone. And he's just running his mouth. And he's just saying a bunch of nonsense. Well, when he decided to run for president, initially no one took him serious. And again, what he did, it was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out here and just throw shit against the fan. Let's see what sticks. Well, you know, these Mexicans, they're whatever. Ooh, that resonated. You know, and oh, these Chinese, they're this and they're that. Race war. Ooh, that resonated. We need to keep these terrorists out, and they're this, they're that, they're this. Ah, that resonated. Yeah, we need to put America first. All these other countries are ripping us off. All these other countries are just robbing us blind. Ah, that resonated. So that's basically what he did. And just keep in mind that some years earlier you had a guy by the name of Pat Buchanan, who is basically Donald Trump today, but just at the right time. He was saying essentially the same thing back then, but it just was not time. It was still considered, if you're an American, you're not going to come right out and say stuff like that. You know, we got to hide the racism. We got to hide the xenophobia, tone it down a bit. So it was almost like shameful to throw your hat behind someone like that or throw your support behind someone like that. But after a black president and a lot of angry white folks who were like, how dare that happen? Well, Trump came along and basically started saying the same old nonsense that Pat Buchanan was saying or hinting at. And this time around, it stuck. Because the feeling was, we're not going to get another black guy in here again, or we're not going to have that black guy handing it over to someone that he blesses as his successor, Hillary Clinton. No, we're not going to have that happening. So this time around, a lot of those people who may not have voted last time around, or the time before that, decided, nah, this is not going to happen. We are going to get out there and we're going to vote and put our voices behind someone that does not look like President Obama or is not blessed by him or who was a part of his administration. Hence, Trump today. So there are people out there who may be pointing to Trump and they're Trump this and they're Trump that. But again, the mystery to me is people outside of the city, people who live in the South, in the Midwest, who consider themselves to be decent human beings, who consider themselves to have certain principles, backing a guy from a northern city, a guy who supposedly has a lot of money, a guy who's thumbed his nose at poor people pretty much all his life. Oh yeah, he hires them, illegal ones and so forth, because he can pay them next to nothing. But a guy like that, they decided to make their, shall I say, king, their leader, their savior. So you can't tell me you're voting for a guy like that with everything that goes against what you claim you are and expect me to believe you're really a reflection of those principles you claim you have in the South, that you are Southern gentlemen, that you're a fine Southern lady, and you're voting for a guy like that, a guy who goes around talking about grabbing females by their genitals, a guy who goes around calling women all sorts of names, fat pig and so forth, and you're voting for that guy? All I can tell you in the end of this video, it reflects more about you than it does about him. Talk to you later.